We are live.
We're live.
Hi, everybody.
Let's wait for some people to come in. I don't see anyone quite yet.
Works for
Did we
me.
announce on Instagram that we were going live?
Honestly, I don't remember. We probably should check that.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. I think I posted a thing earlier, like, are you guys coming? But I actually forgot to post the whole, hey, we're live thing. Let me just go ahead and...
This is not our usual time or our usual day.
Nope. It's throwing us off too. It's like, this is why I tell people, just set notifications.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got to switch some things up this year and you have to be ready.
Yep.
Not our usual time or our...
That's my phone.
That's your playback.
Yeah.
I was like, I know my playback is muted.
My playback I thought was muted, but boy, oh boy, was I wrong.
If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey.
To our makeup live for Cinderella is Dead. We're going to get into it in just a second. We're just waiting for some more people to arrive. And of course, we realized that we hadn't actually reminded anybody that we were going live. So that's a problem. Let's see here.
I'm doing the Twitter. You can do the IG.
Yes.
This is real life us. I mean, I'm glad that you saw it too. We're going to remind people to go ahead and hit the notification button because we're trying to get back on this whole thing, but we took a month off and it shows.
I'm going to announce it on Instagram really quick. Hello, Black Pros family here on Instagram. We are now live with our makeup live today, discussing our book pick for the last quarter of 2020, Cinderella is Dead. So come over and join us as we discuss. This is stuff that literally usually happens before and not on camera.
That's what I'm saying. If you guys want to know what we do before a show, this is what we do before the show. We do all of these things, and the hilarity of us doing it on camera is just...
I was making a joke, and I was like, you know what? We're already, 9 days into 2021, and I want a refund.
I want a refund. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Like, I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm good, love. Enjoy. Send it back. Okay, make a quick Canva.
Wow. So how has everybody been? How was everyone's holidays? This is our first live of 2021. So happy New Year. Yes. Happy New Year, y'all. How was the holiday season for y'all? The holiday season was definitely different this year.
A little bit of an understatement, but yeah, it definitely was.
I mean, I saw my family, but it was very casual, and we all just, because my parents no longer celebrate Christmas, and this started actually last year. They decided they no longer celebrate Christmas because they became Seventh-day Adventists. So Seventh-day Adventists don't really celebrate Christmas. They also go to church on Saturday. There's, all these new rules. And so it was very bizarre, like to go your whole life being raised one way and celebrating the holidays to all of a sudden now they've decided they don't. And last year I spent Christmas at my friend Bianca's house with her family. So I still felt like I had a Christmas. So this year was very bizarre because like my parents were like, oh, we don't celebrate Christmas. And then my brothers decided that they don't celebrate Christmas either but their reasons are more like very hotep reasons, like, oh
God,
this holiday is about commercialism and a white man coming down a chimney.
Why?
And in America, it's just my immediate family. We don't have any other family in this country. So it's like, dang, I'm just on my own.
Meanwhile, my family's got matching pajama sets and like s'mores and like presents. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a change.
The only reason we got to meet up as my family, because I know somebody gonna try to throw some shade. The only reason we got to meet up is because me and my siblings all live alone and we all self-quarantined until it was time to drive home.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I feel like most rational, well-intentioned people are being responsible, right? They are staying in just their bubble of like just the people they live with, or, you know, their small like circle of like going to work and things of that nature. They're not going to parties. They're not doing all these things they're not supposed to be doing. It's just the small minority of people that don't care and are just doing whatever they want are ruining it for everybody else.
Ruining it for everyone. Like, my God, a word.
I mean, I was talking to my friend who lives in the UK and they are back in a full-scale lockdown.
Yes.
He lives in London. They're 100% back in lockdown. They've scaled everything back with this new UK strain. And then they say the stats are that 1 in 3 people in London have it, which is wild, have C19. And I'm just like, 1 in 3? That's insane.
Well, Louisiana is about to go back into phase 1. So there are certain states going backwards in their phases. Like they were in phase 3 before election season and they've been slowly backpedaling. And my mom told me that they're getting ready to go back into phase. They're getting ready to go back in phase 1. Y'all know I live in Texas and we have punks like Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott to lead us. So y'all know we not gonna take it.
Hold us back from our barbecues and our rodeos.
Actually, no, they didn't cancel. The rodeo got canceled last year, and I don't think they're even gonna try this year. So,
well, that's good.
Not gonna lie, I am gonna miss my fried Oreos and my turkey legs and stuff, but that's a small price to pay considering.
Oh, I know. And then, you know, they're rolling out the vaccine. I know people have mixed feelings about the vaccine and what's going on with that. It's I mean, like I said, 9 days into the year and it's been a lot.
We're also going to not ignore the big cat in the room where
I want to talk about it.
We also know Vanilla Ices came out full, strong, and ready. So we're not going to pretend like that did not also happen this week. This is a lot for the first week of 2021.
It was a lot.
It was like, oh, guys, we really missed y'all. I want y'all to know we had multiple meetings during our 1 month of chill. Mm-hmm. And we have so many fun things to offer, but we also felt very bad that we weren't able to do our final book live of the year because the sickness was trying to kill us one by one. And
imagine being sick on your vacation.
Right. It was like on vacation, but you're so sick that you can't talk. What?
I really enjoyed it. Not a good time. But now that we are all here gathered together, we are going to go ahead and start our discussion. So our last quarter pick was a group effort. Y'all voted and decided on Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Barron. And this is about a 400-page book. It was published it was actually a new release for last year. So it was published on July 7th of 2020 by Bloomsbury YA. And just so no one, starts thinking whatever they're thinking, this book is, geared towards grade level 9. Okay. The age range is about 13 to 17. So let's keep that in mind while we discuss. And we are going to do something a little different with this review. We are actually not going to go into too many spoilers because this is a new release. And we are aware that a lot of people still have it on their TBR and that a lot of people may choose to pick it up in the next several months. So we are going to avoid spoilers. This is going to be a general overview of the plot and how we felt about certain things that happened. All right. Yeah.
So also, we forgot to give a shout out to the narrator. The narrator of the audiobook is Bonnie Turpin. I think I said the name right. I tried to look up pronunciations and I couldn't find one. But if you are listening on audiobook, you will be graced because I did enjoy the voice on the audiobook. And so want to make sure we shout them out too.
Yes, I highly recommend the audiobook. I had to listen to it via audio, just running errands and things of that nature. And I really enjoyed, their interpretation of what happened in their voice. So highly recommend. All right. So first, I want to start off saying that we're going to do like a little brief overview of the plot and the characters. So Brittany, I will let you do that.
Okay. First, I want to say for those who look for trigger warnings, there is a trigger warning involving domestic abuse. So if that's something you are sensitive to, they do talk about it a little bit. It is not in gory detail or anything, because again, this is a book geared towards freshmen in high school. So, but there is mention of it. The story is 200 years after the happily ever after of the fairy tale Cinderella that we know, aka the Disney version, not the original Cinderella version, because there are two types. So after the Disney Cinderella, 200 years later, women are forced to go to a ball starting at their 16th birthday to be presented to the men of the town who can or cannot choose to pick a wife. You have the opportunity to go to this ball 3 times. And after that, they don't really know what happens to you. And it is now time for the main character, Sophia, to go to this ball. But Sophia has a secret that people don't realize. And Sophia does not want to go to this ball. In fact, Sophia would actually rather marry a princess than a prince. And that is how the story goes from there.
Yes. So first, I want to talk about the things that we really enjoyed about the book. I will just say right out the gate, the book had a very strong opening. The very first line was very well written and like just got your attention right away. And so it quickly drew me in. I felt like it started off very strong. I really enjoyed the idea, this idea of turning this fairy tale on its head and really doing something different with it. I think that Kaylin Barron, this was like a genius idea. This is a heavily patriarchal world. It's a fantasy. So for those wondering, this is a fantasy world. It is heavily patriarchal. Like women are literally just like objects in this world. They don't have agency. There are a lot of things they can't do. They can't go out after dark, after a certain time. They can't own property. Like they don't have a lot of agency and they don't have a lot of freedoms. And so that was made very clear right out the gate. I think that the author did a great job of kind of setting the scene for what we were walking into and juxtaposing that with Sophia, who's our main character. Sophia is very much her age. I will say that. She is to a T. She reminds me of some teens that I used to babysit for. Now there was a little bit of like the whole, I'm not like other girls, but she really wasn't like other girls.
She actually really wasn't, though. This wasn't one of those things where it's like, I have to fake to be different to be pretty. Like it was really just like, no, she really operates on her own little world. And it's every bit of it. It's like, how did you get here?
Not only is she queer and having to like hide that in a society that's not tolerant of that, she is very much a type of character that like leaps before they look and is very just like brash. And I mean, she got into so many situations where she shouldn't have made it out. She still did survive.
I was just like,
she just like rash decisions and doesn't really think things through. And then she keeps making like the same choices. Like she just didn't, her character development wasn't what I would have liked, but I did like that she was her age. Like it made sense.
Very imperfect.
Yeah, she was a very
very
imperfect.
perfect. She was very sheltered, and she was very naive.
Very naive. And then, so I liked the way the stage was set. I liked the idea of the story. I liked, because this is a fairy tale retelling. I love fairy tale retellings, and I love how they repurposed each of the characters from the original Cinderella story. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the way they repurposed the characters that we think about, you know, obviously like the Cinderella character, where there's such a great mystery behind that. There was a huge element of mystery to the story as well, and trying to unravel this secret. Talk about that later.
One of the loudest secrets ever told in book history.
One of the loudest. But I did it. Yeah. So I liked setting the scene. I liked this. She was very true to her age, true to her character. She was naive, but the love portion of the story, I was thinking about it a little bit more. See, Brittany, you don't like love in stories to begin with. So
even love, you know, like I will allow it in this story because I'm like, that was some real true blue teenage love. Because you know, when we were younger, we would have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or whomever, and we would just be like, they're everything to me.
It just consumes you, yes.
Right. And then the moment that it's over, it's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. And you're like, it's fine. I'm moving on.
Yeah.
But I thought that they had cute moments together. I didn't mind the love story. I just wasn't invested in the love story.
I just didn't care. It was like, we didn't. This is another example where I feel like I understand that we need more queer love in stories because that's something not represented. I just sometimes with this book, I was like, did we need it? Like, for example, we knew that she was queer. Like that standpoint alone is one of her driving forces for why she does what she does. And because that's such a strong driving point for her, I'm like, did we need a love interest at all? Could she have found her love interest after all of this was over?
That's a very good point. For me, the love was not compelling enough. The love between her and Constance was not compelling enough to make me care about the outcome of their relationship. I wasn't invested in them as a couple. I didn't necessarily care if they made it out together, like still in love. I didn't care about them having a happily ever after. Again, it read very teenage and it read very transient to me. But at the same time, I understand and understood while reading the story why this was such a big deal for Sophia, because she found like a kindred spirit in this world where she felt so alone and like the oddball. And finally she meets somebody, and finally somebody can reciprocate the feelings that she's putting out
without any type of question, without any type of hesitation. And it was completely natural for her, which that part I was like, thank you for not writing this long monologue before it happened. Thank you for letting it just happen in the story, because otherwise I would have rolled my eyes harder.
Right. So for that, I was actually like happy for them in that sense. I just wasn't particularly invested because it just didn't seem like a love for the ages that was going to like outlast time or anything like that. It just didn't come across that way to me. So I appreciated it for what it was and what it meant for our main character, but that was about it.
But since we're on this particular topic of her sexuality, like, can we just talk about how much the book emphasized the fact that her sexuality was supposed to be a secret, but like everybody who knew her knew.
Everybody knew.
Like, it was like, wait, so is this just a secret you have to keep from the king? Or is it a secret you have to keep from everyone? Because everyone apparently knows. And they can't tell you that they know. You're on guard, and then you realize they know, and then you calm down. It's like, well, no one's keeping secrets, okay? No one's keeping secrets.
I feel like there were a lot of weird plot holes like that in the story where certain things didn't make sense. Like the exposition would tell you one thing, and then when things actually played out in the story, it was like the opposite of what you were told. or like it didn't fit together. So that brings us to the writing portion of the book, talking about how it was written and how we felt about it. For me, the writing was a lot of exposition. Okay, so I'm the kind of reader where I prefer character-driven novels to plot-driven novels.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that a plot can be amazing, but if I don't care about the characters and I don't want to follow them on the journey of the story, I don't care. Like, you could have the most amazing world building, but if you have two-dimensional flat characters that I don't care about, then why am I reading this book? Like, I don't understand. Why am I here? So that's the type of reader I am. And to me, the best fantasy books are a balance between really great world building and really making you feel like you're there, and really amazing fleshed out characters that you can really root for. And for me, the writing was so exposition-y, like it was so much like describing and telling us what was going on versus the characters like playing it out and showing us.
Yes.
That I didn't really connect to the characters. Like, I didn't feel invested in them like I feel like I should have. Like, in this world where the stakes are supposedly so high and like taking down the patriarchy and like, you know, like all this stuff is going on and the king's still evil and this and that. Like, I just didn't feel, there was no tension. You know, when you're reading a book and it's like that tension of like, you're holding your breath and you're like,
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, I think the issue is it's like, what's the best way to put this? For something to be this, the way that the book is written that this is a dangerously toxic patriarchal society that is hell-bent on keeping women in line, and so in line to the point where any step outside of that line puts not only the woman in danger, but everyone she's connected to will also be in danger. That is what we're told. Yes. However, I didn't feel that while reading the story. Mm-hmm. I felt like Sophia got away with a lot of things that if this were the case, then we would have seen a lot more repercussion. I felt that the villains of the story were about as cliche as we could get, because there's, like you said, this was very plot driven versus character driven. So I didn't understand any of the characters. I barely understood Sophia, and this was supposed to be told from Sophia's standpoint. And all I could do to justify Sophia was to tell myself she's 16.
Yes, I kept saying that the whole time I was listening to the story. And the thing is, everything you said is so spot on. And again, when you said we're told one thing, but when we read out how it's played out, it's different. And that's what I meant by the plot holes. That's what I meant by the inconsistencies in just what we're being told and what we're seeing happen. It doesn't match up. It doesn't add up. And that causes a lot of you being taken out of the story, because you're just like, hold on, why?
Yeah, it's like, but you said if you do this, then this will happen. But you did this, and like, it didn't happen.
And so in a weird way, it's almost like, and this is something that I have an issue with the YA genre in general, especially with YA fantasy. I feel like sometimes the writers don't trust the readers enough, right? They feel like they have to spell everything out for you. And it's like very ABC, patty cake. And it's like, you don't trust the readers because, again, you're writing it for what, like 9th grade, 13 to 17-year-olds. You don't trust that they're going to be able to kind of infer certain things. But I think that does a reader a disservice, because I kept that in mind too. I was like, well, I'm not the targeted audience for this story. And then I try to think about, the books I was reading when I was the targeted audience. And I think that I would have felt dumbed down to if I had read this book as a child. I may not have necessarily been able to articulate what was bothering me like I can now, but there would have been that weird disconnect where you're taken out of the story and it's like, wait, if you said this, but then this was able to happen. So that
I was in the chat. That's why I was looking at the chat. I was like, I forgot that we actually need to bring the chat into here. So there's a lot of hellos. So hold on, let me go through those. So it says, I wasn't invested in this book at all. The love story was really underbaked for me, and the world building was very info dump. That's actually another good phrase for it, info dump.
Yes, it was.
Plus, the patriarchy was on character levels. Ooh, we're gonna talk about the patriarchy. I feel like that needs to be a topic in itself because, we all know the more people who knows a secret, the more it's definitely getting out. Oh, that's also another point about it that I just. I agree. I didn't care about any of it. The premise was cool though. I DNF'd, but maybe I'll try to finish with audio. I do think if you didn't like it, reading it, that you might enjoy the audiobook because the audiobook is the narrator is good. So I've always noticed that even if I DNF a book by reading it, I could finish a book differently when the narrator reads it to me.
Yep.
I'm going to skip this next comment because we need to talk about patriarchy before I bring it up, but it's very cool. However, Esther, I do have a question. Why did you find the cover both pretty and problematic? I would really like to know the answer to this question. So if you answer that, we will come back to that because I am intrigued. But yes, so
I found the world. And this is literally what I thought in my notes when I was thinking about this review. I found the world both generically vast and yet very small. Because the fairy tale world is a very cliche fairy tale world. Like it's very much like once upon a time in a land. Like that's the fairy tale world we're in, right? But I did like the fact that all of the characters were melanated, various shades, various physical characteristics and attributes. So it was a very blackety black world without coming out and being like, they all black. It's very like subtle.
True.
Like being like, like the descriptions were not very overt, but you could still figure out that we were in this black fairy tale fantasy world. But what I mean by it was very small is like, where exactly were we? Like, what about the other kingdoms? Who else was out there? Like, it was very vague.
Yeah.
Okay, so I couldn't quite like pinpoint where I was. Like, I kind of knew where I was, but I also didn't really know where I was.
I assumed we were in a magical, what is it called? I assumed we were in a magical world, so it allowed me to not try to figure it out. Because had I tried to think about it from that aspect, I would have been like, so like, where are we? Like,
yes.
Because another thing that was talked about heavily in this book, but not shown, was they mentioned the other kingdoms. They even said that the king came from another kingdom, but then they also said that like, there's nowhere you can go to hide from the king. I'm like, but if you leave your kingdom, doesn't that mean
exactly
jurisdiction? Like, that's not how this works. I kind of feel like you want us to feel this sense of trapped. You want us to have this sense of urgency and this sense of escape where we have to get away. But it's like, if you just told me that there's nowhere you can go to hide, like, how is this happening? And that's how we input Constance into this situation. Because Constance is a complete contradiction to about everything the story is. And it's like, every time Constance revealed a part of her story, I was like, what?
Wait, that doesn't make sense with what we've been told about this world. I'm so confused.
I was like, wait, go back. Wait a minute. You were where? Where is that? How did you get there? How did you get here? It was so many times I was like, pause.
That's how I felt. And stuff like that took me out of the story because I was like, I need a detailed map. I need names, places, things. Like, what is going on? Like, that's how I felt. Like, it kept taking me out of the story because it was like, we were told the world was one thing.
Yes.
Or we were told one thing, but then when it was actually playing out, like characters talking to each other, things happening, it contradicted what we were told. So it just there's just constant disconnect that happened with me while I was reading. And for me, that can only happen so many times before I just stop caring altogether. I'm just like, okay, well, apparently they're not in that much danger and it doesn't really matter what happens. So let's just see how this ends.
This is perfect definition. I feel like the world didn't know whether it wanted to be whimsical or dark and realistic, if that makes sense. That makes complete sense because
That's
I
perfect.
felt that is perfect description. Oh, that's another thing we were just talking about. This.
Let me tell you what this is why everyone needs to read romance novels, because I have read enough romance novels in my life that I know that when someone is described as fawn, they're basically trying to say that they have like a touch of like melanin in them.
Yes.
From, you know, they're not gonna, you know, pinpoint what type of melanin, whether it's black melanin, whether it's Filipino, like they're not gonna pinpoint it, but they're just like, they're mixed, but they're of, you know, they're part of us, people of color. They're part of us.
They're part of us.
They're one of us, but they're on the lighter spectrum. Like that's literally all fawn has ever meant in any romance novel I've ever read in my life. I'm like, okay, so she's light-skinned, possibly like biracial or white passing, but somehow her features somehow tell us that she has black in her. Got it. That's literally my thought process when I read her description. I was like, okay, so she biracial, possibly white passing black woman with red hair. So I've seen those girls before. Got it. Okay, got it. Continue on.
Since we're on color and things, we can transition back to the cover. So have you seen the difference between the UK cover and the US cover of this book?
I haven't, but now I'm like,
I highly recommend you look because there is a color difference in the melanin. But also, Esther answered our question. Ooh. Esther said that the reason that they found the cover to be pretty and problematic, the image of a battered black girl on the cover made me uncomfortable. In my opinion, the cover did not match the blurb. Now, for me, if I had, from this standpoint, if I had seen the cover, when I saw the cover of this book, I was just excited that this title was Cinderella and it was a black chick in the Cinderella dress. Yeah, I didn't think about the fact that she was battered. And then after I read the story, I understand why she looked like she had gone through a rough time, because she was escaping. But I do actually understand the standpoint.
Is the battered one the UK one?
No, the
blue dress where she's wearing a blue dress. She has like looser textured hair. She has butterfly clips in her hair. Is that UK or US?
I think the UK version is the lighter skin with the butterfly clip.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I can't be mad because this girl looks like the author. I can't be mad. So here's my thing. As a writer, when I imagine my Black female characters, for the most part, I imagine them to look like me. So why would I get upset at another Black author who, okay, maybe she might be lighter skinned or biracial. I don't know. I don't know what she is. But why would I be upset at her imagining her Black female characters to look like herself as well? I can't be mad.
I mean, I'm not mad. I just noticed the difference, but I know that's also a publishing thing, which one day we're going to have a live ranting about publishing crap. But I do find the perspective on the covers interesting because the cover is the only reason that I gave this book a chance in the first place. Like, I just need to be very clear. Like, y'all voted for it, but I could have very well found a reason not to read it. So it's like, I gave it a shot. But yes, so another thing
sorry, I keep staring.
Wait, is what? Yeah, but say I like the covers. I do, but I don't think I like the UK cover as much as the US cover this time, which usually never happens because UK cover is normally like 20 times better than what we get. But I have a question.
US cover too. Yes, what's your question?
Because I've been trying to think about this all day because we have talked about color and representation. But what color was the king? Did you notice that? It was like everyone else in this story, there was a moment where their skin tone and their hair texture and stuff was mentioned.
But you know, like, because I Googled this, I was trying to find out.
Oh, for real?
Yes, because I couldn't remember. Because I was writing down, when I was thinking about this review, I was writing down each character and like their description and who they were and things like that. And when it came to him, I could not remember a point in the book where he was explicitly described At least not that I could recall. I was like, maybe I was zoned out during that part of listening. I don't have time to try to go back and find it because I don't have the physical book and I didn't like highlight things. So I'm like Googling, trying to figure it out. And I still don't know.
Because unfortunately in my brain, every time they read like Prince Charming, that he's a descendant from Prince Charming, all I could imagine was this like Aeropostale model level white guy. And I was like, was there ever a time where because remember, I mean, when Sophia goes to the ball, he's described, but there is I don't recall skin tone being described. I don't recall any of that being described. He's the only character in the book where I can't envision him without thinking about him the way that Disney made him.
And sometimes I think like, was that purposefully done by the author? Like, was she trying to leave that open-ended for a reason? Maybe.
I mean, what would the reason be? That's what I'm trying to think. It's like, I can remember something about each of the characters. Yeah. Look-wise. I can remember nothing when it comes to the king. And it's like, why?
I mean, his character to me was very uninteresting just because I don't like when my villains have no nuances to them. Oh my God. There's no humanity to them. There's no shades of gray. There's no like villain origin story. Like there's nothing to make me feel anything more than just bland towards them. When a character is just so blatantly one note, I always write them off because I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, I don't really care. Like, okay, you're telling me this person is evil. Clearly they're evil. Okay. I don't know the backstory. I don't know, or at least I don't know enough of the backstory. I don't know.
Backstory, and it was still like
bland. I don't know, like, there's no gray area here. There's no tones of like morality or nuance here. So I'm very uninterested.
Yeah, I didn't feel like, because normally I love a villain because usually villains, the reason that they become villains is probably justified in most of the time. So most of the time I'm like, I mean, did you expect anything different by the way that they were treated? There's usually something, but I felt like the reason the king was evil made no sense. It's like, well, why? Why? What happened to put you there? Why? So I felt like we were watching, how do I describe this? So you know how Disney has done such a good job of creating helpless princesses, and then when Frozen came out and Anna punched old dude in the face, like we were literally like, yes, finally.
Yes.
Because that was just such a huge contrast to like everything that we've seen Disney do. I kind of feel like this book was like so determined to have like a punch in the face moment that they didn't feel the need to flesh out the character at all. Like there was no explanation of driving force. There was no explanation. We just knew what happened and we knew they wanted to keep it that way. Like that was it. And it was just kind of like, a story is only as good as its villain.
And that's good. That's absolutely true. And it's also like, I feel like why is the perfect word for this entire review. Like, why did this happen? Well, why? I had so many questions by the time I was done, but again, I didn't feel invested enough in the characters to really think about it too deeply, if that makes sense. Especially with the way the book wrapped up so prettily in a bow and so conveniently, like, boom, everything's been solved. Like,
I mean, but this book, like, it's a fairy tale retelling, so we got a fairy tale ending.
Yes.
So I was like,
you can't be mad at that, but it's, you know what it is? A lot of it is, I don't have a problem with the plot. I don't really have a problem with the characters. A lot of it is how we get to where we're going that I have a problem with.
It went zero. It went 0 to 100 after reading 2/3 of the book.
Mm-hmm. It was almost like the author realized, like, oh, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. It was like, wait, we spent the whole book in the first 2 weeks, and now 2 days. 2 days. It's like, boom, 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 boom. Like, wow, that all happened in 2 days.
Yes.
Okay, whatever. I'm not mad at the book. I thought that the retelling part of the story is what kept me from DNFing it, because I actually wanted to know what happened to Cinderella, you know? And she very well kept me from DNFing, because I was like, I mean, I'm here. Tell me what happened to Cinderella. Because you're telling me that's not what happened. Tell me what happened to Cinderella.
That's so funny. The whole mystery element kept you in. For me, it kept me in until a certain point, and then I started getting annoyed, and then I was just like, well, gotta finish it. So
I mean, by the time they answered what happened to Cinderella, I was like, well, I guess I might as well finish the book. Because I was so disappointed with what happened to Cinderella. I was like, okay. All right.
I wasn't invested enough. This sounds so terrible, but like just this talking about this now makes me realize how much, if I'm not invested in characters in a book, how much I just stop caring. And it doesn't take much for me to be invested in characters. It really doesn't take much. It just takes like a little tiny bit of showing me something else, so showing me some type of character development, like showing me some type of vulnerability, and I'm in. I'm like, okay, now I'm invested. I gotta know. So I'm starting to realize that when I'm not invested in the characters, any of the characters, not the villains, not like I'm not invested in the bad guys, the good guys.
Like I said, the only character I was invested in was Cinderella, and she was dead.
Right?
Like, I only cared about Cinderella, and she was dead.
She's already dead.
Her story was told in another story. So
can we get a prequel?
The Disney version was the prequel, apparently. Because honestly, I was just like, I wanted this book to be this. I wanted this book to be something about, like, I felt like the message of the patriarchal system was so cliche. It was like, we're here, and then we're gonna go here, and that's it.
And that's it.
Like, this is exactly how it's gonna happen. Everything is awesome and fluff and flowers, and boom, everything's different. I'm like, this is so fairy tale. But then my brain says, I'm also 32 years old, and this book is YA. And I don't know what my mind would have accepted as a ninth grader, but I also remember in ninth grade I read Twilight. So like we're here. It's like
I know it's hard though, because it's like you have to consider, like you said, the age demographic the story is meant for. But then again, I always wrestle with that because I just don't believe in dumbing down to your audience. I just don't believe in that. I go back and forth with it all the time, because then I've also read other books for that age demographic that have been absolutely amazing and have taken me on this amazing journey. And I'm just like, this book was insanely good. And that's still written for the same age group. So it's just kind of like,
I guess my question is, do you feel like it's dumbed down because you didn't enjoy it? Or do you feel like it was genuinely dumbed down?
I think it was genuinely dumbed down, because I still think that even though as a 13-year-old, I probably wouldn't have been able to articulate my problems with the book, I still think that I would have been smart enough to notice that things were being told to me that were not true, essentially, that were not being executed. I still would have been able to notice that there was no tension. The plot holes. I would have been able to see the plot holes, and I would have been able to, and I probably would have been a little bit bored with the story, to be honest with you. And like I said, I wouldn't have the verbiage and the understanding to be like this, but I would have still felt that as a reader. When I think about the books that I was reading in ninth grade, when I think about our freaking required reading, which are like these literary works.
The Hobbit that year, y'all. We read The Hobbit in ninth grade for me.
Yes. So on one hand, you can say, oh, this is a young adult book. It's meant for ninth graders, 13, up to 17 years of age. But then on the other hand, in school, they're asking you to read, The Hobbit, Pride and Prejudice, Jude the Obscure, like The Great Gatsby. Like, it doesn't equate. So in school, they're asking you to stretch yourself and have critical thinking skills, but then the same, like, it's just like,
it's like, I don't know if I want, it's like, how do I put this? because our reading requirements were so highly up there. And then the books that I read, because we didn't have a YA section, we didn't have a YA group when I was a freshman in high school. So I was already reading adult.
You went straight to adult.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked up this book anyway, because the idea of the book didn't interest me when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I was a hardcore nerd. Like back then I was reading like scientific papers and doing reports on them because I was that weirdo. So had I started this book, I feel like I would have felt tried. It's like I keep trying to tell myself like, this is 9th grade. And it's like, don't try your 9th grade self like that.
Right.
Oh yes, this is perfect. Listen,
there we go.
Can we get some real YA aged people in our book club? We promise that we will censor ourselves in those conversations, yes. But I would love to have a YA aged reader come on our show and talk about the book from their perspective and see how much we actually agree. Because I feel like we're giving YA too much room to be mediocre.
We are.
In the name of diversity. And I keep saying this, just because it's a diverse read does not mean we cannot critically assess it and hold it to the same standard that we hold everyone else. Because granted, the cover, I bought it because I was like, I'm interested. The cover is gorgeous. Cool. But this is the second time that I have read a book where I found the cover to be absolutely gorgeous. And I found the book to be very lackluster.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the third. So I'm kind of at a point where like, yes, we still need representation in our stories, but stop playing us and acting like mediocre representation is going to shut us up. We want the writing. We want the stories. We want the characters. I want to be as obsessed with the characters in these books as people are with all of Sarah J. Maas's books.
Yes.
Like there's people talk about how they're in love with Cassandra Clare's characters and she wrote a different book outside of her normal plot for years.
Mm-hmm.
We deserve the same thing. And I don't think we're getting that from these books.
Well, it's this is my thing. A great concept and great ideas don't make a great book, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to execute those concepts and those ideas to the level that those concepts, ideas call for. So the greater the idea, the more complex, the more revolutionary the idea, the more the writing has to hold up to that in order to accomplish what that story idea is setting out to do. And I think right now what's happening in YA publishing is you are getting a lot of publishers that are buying ideas and that are publishing books because of the idea of the book and because it has queer representation, because it has a Black main protagonist or whatever the case may be. And they like the idea of it and they like how revolutionary it feels and how woke it makes them feel to participate. But the question is, does the writing hold up? Yeah. And I have a lot of hope for this author because this is a debut novel, right? Not every debut novel is going to be what the author is capable of because it's the beginning. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else she writes. I'm looking forward because clearly she has amazing ideas. Clearly
her next book sounds interesting. I'm still going to give it a shot.
She has these plots that are like larger than life and so, fascinating. And I'm very interested and intrigued to read her next book. So I'm not saying that I'm not interested in her future work. I just think that, when we read critically and when we think about these things, even when it's not for our target audience, these are the type of things that we have to take into account. And unfortunately, we have to talk about publishing and we have to talk about, as a Black book club, all we want to see is Black books being
and Black
written.
excellence.
And Black excellence. But at the same time, we can't just accept mediocrity and hold it up just because it's what they're giving us, right? We can't just say, oh, this is what we're getting. Okay, we're just going to accept it. We have to demand more. We have to say, you know, this is great. Thank you so much for giving us these diverse characters. Thank you so much for giving us queer Black characters. We need more, you know, because the more we get, the more variety we'll have. So if we have more options, then we're not just going to have a story that's maybe dumbed down and not necessarily executed very well. We're bound to get something. We're bound to get like another Tochi. We're bound to get, you know what I'm saying? Like we need more. So I guess the moral of the story here is they just need to publish more. Like it's not enough.
I also feel like we need to preface this by saying, like, we are a book club that highlights Black authors. We are also a book club that is not about jumping on any bandwagons or trying to act like it's Black, you can't talk. No, we hold Black people to a standard that is extra stellar. And just because we might not have liked this book doesn't mean stop buying Black. It doesn't mean stop supporting this author. What it means is keep putting faith in this author so the publishers will give them another chance.
Yes.
Because Black authors do not get the same options as these authors who get 7 book deals and it's the same story told 7 times.
Yes.
Like, they don't get that option. They get 1 book shots, and then if the general response is a no, they might not get another chance to get a book. So we are telling you guys, like, okay, this might not have been our favorite book from her, but she's got another book coming out this year that the plot of it is very interesting. She has the ability to create stories. Her plots and her ideas have already told us that. The premise of Cinderella is Dead is fantastic. The way that she built the world of Cinderella is Dead is fantastic.
Yes.
Did we find it a little plot heavy? Yeah. But at the same time, this is her very, very brand new debut novel. And some authors have to gain that type of knowledge to progress their storytelling. And I believe she deserves another chance. And I'm going to read that next book too. I just want us to stop this crap about being like, you can't talk bad about Black authors and Black books. No, heck no. I'm going to critically assess them because that's all the Black prose reads is Black books.
Yes, that's all we read.
You're not going to sit here and be like, oh, it was so great. It was so great. It was so great. I really liked this book. It was really important. I loved this. We're not going to do that here. So I just really want to point that out. We're not going to read it just because it's hyped up by BookTube. We're not going to read it just because everyone else loved it. We might read it just to tell you what the truth is, because a lot of times we're not giving ourselves the ability to be considered equal if we are not talking about these books the way that we talk about everything else. If you feel comfortable discussing a book that's not written by Black people or a person of color, because again, I don't consider Black being in PLC. So if you don't feel comfortable assessing these books the way that you assess white books, that's actually a part of the problem. We need to hold ourselves to a standard that other people want to strive to get to. If the only thing that we are saying about these books is it's representation, it's diversity, we are putting ourselves at a level lower than what these other books are being compared to. If you read a review of non-Black, non-POC reviews, they're breaking down everything.
Everything.
And the first thing you see in these reviews now, when this book's by us, this book offers so much diversity. It's got queer love. It's a Black main protagonist. The cover is gorgeous. No. These are great points to add into your review, but they are not the whole review.
No.
So I'm just, miss me with the super important. We have used that word so much in 2020 that I'm over it. Like, I want us to critically assess authors and keep reading them.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's never going to see this. And don't nobody, I swear to God, we don't tag authors in this book club.
We don't. That's just so unnecessary.
You do that here, we're blocking you from I will block you from everything. I just want to point that out. We don't just, this is still somebody's art. If they come across this and see it, that's their fault. But do not direct authors to viewers and readers reviewing their work. That's rude.
Yeah, that's not right.
Even if it's a good one, don't do it. Because
I feel like that's the author's prerogative to look up reviews on their own. I don't think it's something that should be brought to their doorstep. I just don't think it's right. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think we have to hold these books to the same standards as we hold non-Black books and non-Black writers. I think it's only fair. And if we're asking to have the same level of saturation in this mostly white market, then we're asking to, be relegated to being just as having as many options in our various genres as white books and white authors, then we do ourselves a disservice by, tiptoeing and not being critical and not being honest and truthful. I don't think that that's fair. But I think the answer is just we need more. We need more authors being published, more writers being published. We need more book ideas getting out there. And I think that is slowly but steadily happening. So that's exciting to see.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to see what she does next. I'll definitely be picking that one up as well. So
I'll tell you guys what the next one is. I do want to shout that out because her next book comes out on July 15th. It is The Poison Heart. And all I'm going to say is there's some things that she has power, like nature powers, and it's ancestral. And so I'm just excited. But again, the title is The Poison Heart. And this one says This Poison Heart #1. So I guess this one is not going to be a standalone because Cinderella is Dead is a standalone.
Also, from what I was reading last night, it seems like the mystery element in this one is going to be a lot heavier than it was in Cinderella is Dead. Like the mysterious element that's going on in this story. So I'm excited, especially if it's part of a series, then I'm really excited to see.
I love a good series and I love some magic. So again, I feel like I want her sophomore to be, I imagine her sophomore is going to be stronger.
Yes.
So I'm just like,
I'm reading some of the comments that we have.
Yeah, I was about to say, and Jerry has joined us and graced us with her presence, and she has some things to say about this book, but I'm gonna scroll back up because I went on a rant. My bad.
I just read one of her comments.
Let me scroll back up. Where did we stop? Oh, we talked about UK publishing too. Yeah, that comment I saw, I was like, whoop. Oh my gosh, I forgot about him. So we need to go real quick because he is such a throwaway character that I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, throwaway, 100%. I was just like, what was the point of this?
What was his purpose other than thrown away?
Oh my God, just another diverse, another.
Right. I was like, no, Black authors.
Another
you will not treat queer characters how white people treat us. You will not do that.
Also, can I just say that a character's queerness is not a personality trait, and I really hate how it's being treated as a personality trait. Like,
oh my God,
that's why I love Elizabeth Acevedo and why I loved Clap When You Land, because you can't treat someone's sexuality as a personality trait. Like, that's just not.
Stars in the blackness between them, because like it wasn't like
yes.
the characters talking. It's natural. Like we keep talking about this too, where we want the diversity to be natural because it is natural. And
the reason I said that is because when that gay character just kind of faded, like I'm calling him that gay character, I hate that.
You need to find out his name. I'm so mad that I cannot remember his name.
Faded to the black. It's kind of like his character and him being another queer character was being treated like a plot point.
It was
treated like a personality trait. And I really hate that. It makes me really uncomfortable when authors do that because they don't treat straight characters like that's a personality trait. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it's not a personality trait. It's just a human.
Literally, all we know about this character is that he got caught with another guy and that his parents did not throw him away because he was gay. That's literally all we know about him. I cannot remember his name. I'm so mad. Was it Luke? No, I don't think
No.
I'm so bad. Oh my, but this is actually further into the point. It's like he was such a throwaway character and such a plot-driven character. Oh, was it Thomas? It might be.
I don't know. I had literally had to go back and
even the chat does not remember his name. That's what I'm saying. It's like, no, this could have been done better because every time he showed up, it was to move the plot.
Yeah, it was.
Only.
He was a plot device.
He was a plot device. Oh my, we even forgot him. We talked about him before this live.
Yes, and then we forgot him. Yeah, I think that if you're gonna write books with queer characters, you have to be very careful about making their sexuality the only thing about them that is flushed out, that is notable. I think that is very dangerous to do, especially in YA. Like, I don't know.
His name was Luke.
Was it?
His name was Luke. Oh my gosh. Luke, we're so sorry. We did not mean to throw you away the way that the book did. My bad. Dang. Took all this time to get up, Luke.
Jerry. Did I not just say this before this live began?
You did. Y'all don't understand. We meet before our lives to kind of talk about what we're going to say and stuff. So it's always funny when one of you guys say what we're talking about, and that mess is just. Listen, Noria, we don't know. We just.
I mean, I literally don't remember his name whatsoever. So it could have been any of those.
Actually, I remember none of the men's names in the story, not one. And I don't know if that was on purpose to make them seem so throwaway.
The men in the story were so one-dimensional, not even two-dimensional. We're definitely not three-dimensional. They were literally like cardboard cutout caricatures of men.
Yeah. I think that's maybe why I don't remember them. Because I remember the female characters and the female characters' names. Wow. Now that we're saying, I'm like, every man present in this story was one-dimensional, even her daddy.
When there were scenes with the king and his evilness, I literally imagined those old school cartoons of the dude with the mustache twirling his mustache as the woman was tied to the train tracks. That is what I saw. That was the energy. That was the energy that I got. I was like, yeah, this is where we are. This is where we are.
Man. That was a drag on. The men were just nothingness.
Look, and maybe that was done purposefully because this world was so toxically patriarchal that maybe the author thought, okay, I'm going to juxtapose that by making these men so flat and nondescript and not important, and making the women come to the forefront and stand out, because it's like, I don't know, an FU to this page. I am just making shit up. That's what I'm gonna think.
We could very well not be realizing that the author intended us to not care about the male characters. There's a very high possibility that their flatness was on purpose. Or we could be giving too much credit to the author. We really don't know. I'd have to listen to an interview or something. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, Ted, I had this invite. Can we talk about, again, when we were talking about how this story is heavily plot-driven? Heavily plot-driven.
The point where common sense and logic was thrown out the window for the plot to be realized. I was like, hold the phone.
It was just like you know when you watch like Animaniacs or something, and like the cops and the guards are always like completely dense,
Yeah.
And like they always fall for the fake disguises of like whatever main character it is. Like that's how I imagine these guards. Like every man in this book was a caricature.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them.
It's like, kind of like the characters were in service to the plot. So whatever the characters needed to believe or do in order to execute the plot successfully. And I think that that's the issue. I think I just said the issue I had with the story. Because that is not like,
I think we just literally stepped on what the real issue with why we didn't fully enjoy this book. Every character was
that's not foundational. That's not foundational. You just can't have characters go with whichever the wind blows to serve the plot. If you're gonna do that, then you have to do that on purpose and make them like unreliable characters or like an unreliable narrator or something that makes that work somehow.
This is going to sound terrible, but the more we talk about this book, I'm actually becoming a little disappointed with the book.
Oh no, maybe we should have stopped like 20 minutes ago.
When I finished the book, I didn't really feel a type of way about the book, but the more that we are actually assessing it, the more I am a little disappointed because, again, I felt like the story has potential. But when you think about the significance of certain things, they weren't really significant at all. Like,
no. Well, when there's no tension, when you don't feel, okay, so when the author writes, oh my gosh, the tensions are so high, this world is so fraught with peril for women, and you're like built up, you're like, okay. And then you're like, okay, let me see it, let me experience it, okay, no, oh. That's literally how it felt. And so you can't build these stakes and make them so high, but not actually build the stakes and make them so high. So there's no tension for the reader. There is no sense of urgency. And so what happens is because when you read a fantasy, at the end of the book, you're supposed to feel some type of satisfaction, whether it's a sad ending, a happy ending, no matter what happens in the end, there's a certain sense of satisfaction you feel because like, everything just kind of worked out the way that, you know, it was supposed to. And I didn't feel that sense of satisfaction in the end of this book because I wasn't invested. The stakes weren't high. And I didn't really feel like any of the characters were truly in danger. Like the characters I was supposed to be rooting for, I never really felt like they were in any type of danger, even though I was told they were. So that satisfaction of like, oh, they survived, like everything is okay. Like I didn't get that, like the payout, you know, that's why you build the stakes so that you can have this payout. And I didn't feel that payout because there were no stakes. So
I just want to reiterate this again. We are not saying take our word. We are not the know all be all. And we also still say, please read it. If you get it from the library, if it's on sale. We keep saying the audiobook is good. Bonnie Turpin is the narrator, and I do enjoy Bonnie. That's all I'm saying. I do recommend the audiobook always. I think the question that I want to ask, because we are going to switch subjects because we have already been talking for an hour. Is this a book that you would recommend to someone else? And if you would recommend it, why? And if you would not recommend it, why? This is for Oshale and everybody in the comments.
I actually watched a few YouTube reviews of this book and read a few Goodreads reviews because I was kind of trying to get a gist of, like, you know, you want to read the room a bit and see what other readers are saying. Mm-hmm. And I did find some people that enjoyed the book. And I think it comes down to what type of reader you are. And the readers that I saw who really enjoyed the book are readers who enjoy plot-driven stories and that don't necessarily, I don't know how to put this, don't necessarily want to think too deeply or too critically about things. They just take it for what it is and they enjoy it for the fairy tale aspect, for the love story, for, you know, it does give a very like Disney-esque vibe. So I would recommend it for if I knew somebody who I would be like, you know what, they really enjoy these like kind of Disney-esque vibes. They like fairy tale retellings. They enjoy heavily expositioned plots. Then yes, I would recommend it to them. But if I knew someone that would be turned off by all of the things that we discussed, I feel like you have to know the reading tastes of people. It's not something I would recommend across the board to just everyone, right?
Yeah.
I would only recommend it to a very specific type of reader. So
I would still recommend this book to people. Well, so like you said, certain people, because I know certain people that love reading retellings and they love reading kind of books. This is perfect for that, in my opinion, because I enjoy retellings that question the fairy tale entirely. Yes. And there is one thing that this book does. This book takes the idea of Cinderella and the happily ever after and throws it in a dumpster and sets it on fire.
Yep. It turns it on its head completely.
Yeah.
So, I'd recommend it, but I wouldn't, it's not something I would broadly recommend to everyone, especially if I knew someone's reading tastes. I would only recommend it to a specific type of reader, like you said. So,
yeah. So, I mean, again, I feel like we assessed this book very well, and we've also stated we plan on reading more from her. So look at us praising with critical assessment.
Yes. I mean, it definitely was enjoyable in the sense of I really do recommend the audiobook. It kept me engaged. I listened to it all the way through, even though it did take me up until like yesterday to finish it. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you love a good fairy tale retelling, if you really are intrigued by the idea of taking down the patriarchy and this mystery of the Cinderella story not being what you were told, and of course we have queer rep, then I highly recommend.
I think we're pretty good.
Yes, it was entertaining. It was entertaining.
Like I said, I wanted to know what happened to Cinderella. They helped for that.
You know what? It's, to me, it's my book equivalent of like, I'm that girl that loves to watch Christmas movies, like those Hallmark Christmas movies. And I also really enjoy watching like Disney movies. Not like Disney movies, but like from the Disney Channel. That is the equivalent of this for me. I enjoy it so much. I'm so entertained. I'm here for it. There we go.
Interesting. Well, yes, that's also what we're saying. Like we see the value in the story, so we're kind of hoping, but that's kind of the review. But we do have some special announcements that we do need to talk about with you guys. So first of all, y'all remember when we talked with LaSalle and we were like, this is so great, and we did a giveaway and we never told y'all who won? Well, that's because we planned on announcing it in December. But like we said, we kind of got sick. So we would like to say that the winner of the pre-order for Blood Like Magic is actually Ted Ryan. So congratulations. We will be sending you a message on Instagram because we do obviously need to like figure out your address and things. So keep a lookout for that. Also, if you don't hear from us, please write us because we do have a tendency to forget. The next thing that we would like to talk about is January 13th. Next Wednesday is our anniversary.
Yes, this is so exciting. We are 2 years old.
I can't believe it.
So
We've
bizarre.
been 2 years. Like
it feels like it could be longer. It feels like we've been here longer.
I feel like we've been here longer, but maybe not as hardcore. Like we're one of the few Black book clubs that didn't just start for the hype. But we stayed after the hype. It's like if this was tea, I'd sip it very hard.
Well,
yeah, So we're going to have a special live show on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
I would love for you guys to come. We're going to talk about our book club goals and stuff that day. And we'll probably cut up because we are very excited because the book club is something that was Oshale's baby. And then she just kind of included us in it and it's still going. And so we just we're really happy that A, y'all are still here. And B, we haven't lost the gumption to keep going.
I know. So, we actually all still like each other and still want to keep doing this.
We still like each other.
It's so crazy. Also, the elephant in the room, Troy is doing school stuff right now. So that is why she is not here. And that's really just it. She is well. She is well.
Since we're throwing so much shade and it actually got physically darker in my office as I started throwing shade. If you notice, it's darker in here. I need the sun to come back. So let's answer this question.
Wow.
Do you hold debuts up to the same standard as books by established authors?
Here's the thing. In a perfect world, I want to say yes, but there are very few authors that come out the gate fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the fact. Like there aren't a lot of authors that their first book is amazing and their second book is amazing. Like that's just a very small group across all genres, across, whatever type of writing they're writing. That's just not the norm. And a lot of times we don't even hear about authors until they're on their third or fourth book. And that's the book that really catches on and it does well. And then you have to go back and you look at their first books and you're like, oh. So I want to say in a perfect world that we should hold them up, but I don't think it's fair because writers get better over time. You get better at your craft. You have ideas that people like better than other ideas. It's just not fair to hold. I don't think it's fair, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I do not. I do feel like established authors are established because they find their niche and they find what they're good at. And in order to find what you're good at, you might have a couple flops. You might get lucky and have like a bomb one. I mean, R.F. Kuang is a perfect example, Noria. You might bust out with a Poppy War right off the jump, but you might also pop out with a CBB. So you never know where you are. But you do, I feel like every author deserves a chance to grow in their craft. So I always try to make sure that if we are reading a debut novel, that I am still critical of it, but I want to also point out what I already see as potential, because I feel like as a debut author, you deserve some slack. You do deserve You deserve accolades for debuting, first of all, because we all know that that's actually something that's not as easy as people try to pretend it to be. And then you also deserve praise for the things that you did correctly. So I always try to make sure, I mean, we talk about this too. We try not to drag debut authors unless their stuff is a phobic issue. We try not to drag debut authors because they do deserve a chance. And if you're only pickpocketing everything they did wrong, it's gonna promote this idea that they're not worth it. And so I think they always deserve like a shot. Like I said, I'm going to give this author another chance. She deserves a chance.
And I also think that this is something we all subconsciously know, right? Because when we do have a debut author that writes this like amazing work, it's such a huge deal. Like everyone's talking about it. Everyone's raving. They're getting these awards. It's like, so I think that it's something we all subconsciously know, that to strike lightning or, in a bottle, your first book is not the norm.
No. Oh, this question is too loaded, and Jerry, and I don't like you for asking it. I should just state that clearly. This is too much. Like, we're going to I feel like one day I'm going to actually have a Black fantasy conversation that's separate, because I could go on this particular topic for a very long time. And I just feel like that's too much for this live. There are a couple Black YA specific fantasies that I feel like hit a mark, but they did not all hit the same mark. And then a lot of them crashed and burned in ways just not expecting them to crash so hard on. So like that is just too much.
This is a different live stream.
Yeah, that's a totally different live. We would have to. That's a long conversation. But I'm gonna keep scrolling because a lot of people are saying they give debut authors chances. That's wild. I love The Bells, but I did not like The Everlasting Rose. See,
that's how I feel too. I loved The Bells, but the second book, I was like, eh.
Yeah, that's what I'm glad that I'm glad that we all have different trains of thought, which promotes this idea that, you know, you can't have everybody thinking the same way. So, oh, that's also a point. I mean, y'all know there are certain authors that we stand in this book club, and it's so great to pick up another one of their books and be like, oh, thank you. Thank you for still growing. Thank you for still growing. Thank you for still being. Also, I should point out, I have read a book from I've not read Alicia Dow's book yet. It's on my list. And Bethany Morris's books are on my list as well. But I have read Ella McKinney, and Charlotte Nicole Davis's The Good Luck Girls needs more love and does not get needs accolades. It's a book people don't talk about. And I feel like it's not fair.
Here's the thing. I think it's because of the cover.
Oh, yeah. No, the cover is a strong looking Black woman.
I was like, when I saw the cover, I was like, oh, no, I love it. But this is going to make people not want to read it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But back to the announcements, because it's brighter in my office now. Oh, do you want to talk about the book schedule thing since, you know?
Okay, so we have decided that for 2021, we really want to try to read more books since we are a book club. We do enjoy talking about other topics too, but we do want to just try to get into reading, even for our book club, more diversely, because we kind of noticed certain patterns with our reading, and we kind of want to break out of that and just mix things up a little bit. So we will still be reading Black authors only. But we want to branch out into different genres, different time periods that books were published, not just new releases or newer releases, and also branch into nonfiction a bit more. We have decided this year that we will be doing a book every 2 months versus every 3 months, which increases our chances of reading more. So for this very first, it's not really a quarter, I guess, but for this first 2 months.
Period.
I know. The first period we are doing for January and February. We already have a book, and I need to pull up because I already can't remember the name of it.
We are reading Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden.
Yes, I just ordered my copy too, so I'm expecting it either today or tomorrow. But yes, Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden is our first pick of 2021. So I'm just going to quickly read the synopsis for those that are not sure what it's about. All right, let's see here.
Oh, I see people saying we should do a mystery book. We're going to have to look into that because we do need to. Mystery book is on my list. Oh, we also need to talk about our challenges after this. Read the description first, because we have some things for you guys that I feel like will make y'all very happy.
Okay, so Escaping Exodus is a story of a young woman named Seski Kaylee, heir to the command of a biological city-sized starship carved up from the insides of a space-faring beast. Her clan has just now culled their latest ship, and the workers are busy stripping down the bonework for building materials, rerouting the circulatory system for mass transit, and preparing the cavernous creature for the onslaught of the general populace still in stasis. Interesting. It's all a part of the cycle her clan has instituted centuries ago. Excavate the new beast, expand into its barely living carcass, extinguish its resources over the course of a decade, then escape in a highly coordinated exodus back into stasis until they cull the next beast from the diminishing herd. And of course, there wouldn't be much of a story if things didn't go terribly, terribly wrong. This sounds absolutely fascinating.
I'm very, this is well into my genre range. So
they literally like prey on these beasts, live in them, kill them from the inside out, and then move on to the next. And
that's
all I can think about is I'm like, why?
That's the type of what the F I love. I'm intrigued. So that is the first book. So that's the book that we will actually be talking about in our February show. We are still keeping the Sunday show being the every third Sunday of the month at 5:30 p.m. CST, which is 6:30 EST. If there is changes, we will let you know. We have been posting our monthly schedules on our social media so you guys can mark them in your planner. Because if you bought a reading planner from me, you could totally mark that in your calendar. But something that we will be actually introducing these on Wednesday. But Black Prose, in an effort to make sure and hold ourselves accountable for diversity within our Black reads, we will be introducing Black Prose challenges. These challenges are different types of prompts that you can do throughout the year in your regular TBR, and you not even they're not anything readathon based purpose. They are just us saying, hey, read a book by an Afro-Caribbean, or read a book where the main character is Black but not traumatized. Like, we're gonna try to challenge ourselves to read different genres, different plot points, all that kind of thing. And that also does include mystery. A lot of y'all have just said read mystery. I just wrote down the books that Miss WOC Reader and Bree wrote in the comments, because I still have to decide on my book picks, because obviously we're having book picks. Something else that you guys would like to mark in your calendar is that Throwback-a-thon is in March this year. And Naked is in July this year. So just in case y'all didn't know, mark that in your calendars, mark that in your reading planners, so that y'all know what's up, because we're very excited this year. We have some things coming here that I think you guys are going to enjoy.
I'm excited for all the things.
Yeah. Wait. I'm double checking the things that we said we were going to talk about. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, oh, you popped into the live because of my planner. That's great. Thank you. But yeah, so basically, here's what we need from you guys. Go ahead and set that notification button on our channel, because we are going to be incorporating other things throughout the next couple of months, and then to accommodate for the themes or the conversation that we want to have, we are going to have to change the times for some of the shows. So they might not necessarily be on Sundays. They might end up being another Saturday afternoon show like this. So set notifications just on always, because we want you guys to catch it. We don't want you guys to miss it. I'm very excited for Wednesday, because we are actually going to break down the book club goals, which I feel like will also kind of tell you what's happening this year. So I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, y'all, we have so many great things coming down the pipeline. I wish I could tell y'all what we are about to do, but we will get into a little bit on Wednesday. Just know for this year, we will be reading more books. We have personal goals as a book club, and we also have just individual goals that we'll be discussing. So that's on Wednesday. Set your calendars. Thank you so much for coming to the live today. Thank you so much for your support. As always, we really love your support on Patreon. We're really trying to build up our Patreon audience, because we do want to be able to offer more things, and we want to be able to build up our community on Patreon so that we can offer more things in that avenue. So definitely go check out our Patreon and support us if you can. And I believe that is it for today's live. Thank you so much for joining. Happy New Year. We appreciate every single one of you. And we can't wait to see you on Wednesday.
You Wednesday night, 7 p.m. EST.
Yes. Bye.
So